Who are this? Look who here. Dumb, dumber, dumberer, and the big dummy.
So I received a few messages today on Quora from some of my subscribers about this dude on Instagram named NerdGod who's starting some drama with me. And yeah, I want to take a look at what he says here about my statements. Apparently all of my statements are cap? The point that NerdGod here is trying to get across is that the nil monitors of Final Crisis are the exact same copies of Mar Novu that we saw in Crisis on Infinite Earths and Countdown. I don't believe that to be true, and Mandrake certainly is not a fragment of Mar Novu, and in this video I'm going to show you the proof and the evidence that I have to debunk this user, and yeah, let's just go, because there's a ton to unpack here, so I'm not going to waste any time. So to begin here, I'd like to show a clip of an author interview that was recorded through a DC Comics charity, in which James Tynion and Scott Snyder are talking about the nil monitors and what the differences are between the splits of Mar Novu and if this is true or not. And James Tynion really relays to us as the readers that this is all his interpretation, and it really is just his own rewrite of the Final Crisis lore. It is not an exact copy of the lore from the older canon.
From Final Crisis, that those are his like descendants maybe? I was wondering if you could clarify that relationship. I'd be really interested to hear that.
Yeah, so basically, and this is the intent, but the caveat I always give this stuff is that because it's something that you can read a few different ways, unless a creator makes it absolutely canon on the page, this is my interpretation of the events. So that is my above and beyond caveat, especially when it comes to like the high level cosmic stuff.
And further beyond that, we have this interview that Scott Snyder did where he tells us that his entire Metal series is just a bold new rewrite of the entire DC origin story.
This one. But with 6, I mean, the things that happen at the end are pretty bold, and definitely rewrite a lot of sort of mythology of the DCU. And
so at this point, I'd like to showcase the differences between the nil monitors of Final Crisis and the Countdown Mar Novu splits. They are completely differently written characters. And if we go back to the Grant Morrison interview with IGN in 2009, we can see that he admits to us that the nil monitors of Final Crisis, as seen in Superman Beyond issue 1 and 2, are created by the Overvoid specifically for a function. And if we move forward to Tales from the Dark Multiverse, I believe, which was written by Steve Orlando, the Tempest Fugonaut also repeats this same motif, that the monitors were created to watch and observe. They are not indirect splits of Mar Novu in this series. Not all canons agree with each other, is the point that I'm trying to make here. So back in Final Crisis, we learn that the nil monitors are created by the Overvoid to oversee all of existence, whereas in the Metal series in Justice League 2018, written by Scott Snyder, we find out that the Countdown monitors are splits of Mar Novu. This is a huge discrepancy. And this is super easy to prove and debunk, because the Countdown monitors and the monitor splits of Mar Novu existed in the TIMESTREAM, a nexus of realities, whereas the nil monitors from Final Crisis lived on a place called Nil, which is outside of the source wall and floating in the Overvoid. These are completely different locations. And just for giggles, I'm going to show you exactly how many times Countdown referenced exactly where these monitors are from. They live in the TIMESTREAM. From the TIMESTREAM. The nexus of all realities TIMESTREAM. Here in the TIMESTREAM. There they are in the TIMESTREAM. Here in the TIMESTREAM again. Oh, it's the nexus of all realities. So where is this located again? Oh, the TIMESTREAM. It's located in the TIMESTREAM. The TIMESTREAM. The TIMESTREAM. The TIMESTREAM. It's located in the TIMESTREAM. It's the TIMESTREAM. Oh my goodness, it's the TIMESTREAM.
Oh, okay.
This is like the author's beating you over the head with a baseball bat more than 30 times.
That's enough.
The Countdown monitors have never been past the source wall, but the nil monitors of Final Crisis live beyond the source wall. The Countdown monitors do not understand what bleed space is, and they want to get rid of it, whereas the nil monitors of Final Crisis consume it and are masters of it. The Countdown monitors are confused by bleed space and are really threatened by it and don't understand how to control it. They want it gone. whereas the Nil monitors of Final Crisis love to eat the bleed space and know everything about it. These are not the same characters. These are different canons talking about the same characters, a different take on the same group, written by different authors. These are not the exact same group and same canon characters. You know, it seems clear to me that this user doesn't understand that there are some interviews and editorial statements right in the Countdown comic book itself that tell us that Countdown and Final Crisis were not made to relate each other. They were made at the same time and don't consider each other's story or origins of the characters. They're completely differently written. And then further, this user says that Mandrakk is a split of Mar-Novu. In no way, shape, or form is this true. It makes it clear in Final Crisis that the first son of the Overvoid is the probe that the Overvoid sent, which was Mandrakk. Mandrakk is the original probe that the Overvoid created specifically to go look at Mar-Novu and Mobius. And here at the end of Final Crisis, we find out that Mandrakk is the corrupted side of the Overvoid. It says here, "You are the part of Monitor that felt corrupted." And the term Monitor is in context to the Overvoid, right on the same page. It's like these people didn't even read this comic book and are still trying to debate it with other people. It's pretty clear here that the Nerd God user is just trying to censor and lie to everybody. There's no other explanation around this. Pretty much every word that he said was perfectly described and related in the comic book or by some author interview. He's only trying to get his favorites to the top. He doesn't like that certain characters are actually the strongest of DC, so he's willing to censor and lie to you and call anybody who disagrees with him my goon. Remember, if you disagree with anything that I showed you, if you read any of the statements that I showed you, you're just my goon, apparently. So this next part really bothers me. I never said this. This user is claiming that I said something that I didn't. I never said Nix Yotan was on the real world. Somebody else said this, not me. I said that Nix Yotan dreamt up the entire events of the multiversity because that's what it seems the author said in this interview right here. He said that Nix Yotan may have dreamt up the entire story. And if we go further, we know that this real world, apparently, is not in the fiction of DC Comics. Again, if you call back to that other interview that Grant Morrison gave, he said the entire DC Comics and Marvel Comics and every other fiction are contained within the Overvoid. And in the context of Earth 33, this new Earth Prime, he rewrote it to be this actual world that we live on. Is that true? No, that's not what I'm saying. In the context of the story, it is. And of course, I've written an entire article just on this subject alone to inform other users that I do not think that this is all real life. But then you get other users like this Nerd God proclaiming to other people that I believe something I didn't, even though I wrote this other giant article that says, and was specifically written for users just like him, claiming this nonsense that I believe this is all real. I don't believe it's real. I wrote a giant article saying that it's not real, specifically for dumbasses like this who claim that I've said something I didn't. Now, if you go back to these other articles where Grant Morrison is explaining on what Earth 33 is, he explains that it's supposed to be the real world, as close as you can get to the real world. It's exterior the fiction. Also, Nerd God has apparently censored the entire start of the multiversity, where Nix Yotan literally dive bombs off of his bed and into the multiversity comic from his bedroom on Earth Zero. All of the events of the multiversity take place within the mindset of Nix Yotan's bad drug trip, and he wakes up from it and realizes that all the events and things around him in his bedroom were plot elements inside of the multiversity story. This user then goes on to make two more bold claims that aren't true, the first of which is that Perpetua is far stronger than Mandrake. And while that just isn't true, let's ask Bleed Space itself what it thinks of Mandrake. Turns out Bleed Space, the tools of her son Alpheus, speak out and say in a vision that Mandrakk is the real god. And if we go to the omniscient book of Limbo, the author's book, in a place that no DC character can get to, it also makes the claim that Mandrake is the true god. And also recall that the sixth dimension is just below the source wall, and Perpetua is not strong enough to break the source wall. However, Mandrakk, before all of his amps, drilled straight through the sixth dimension and the source wall. This is a feat that Perpetua in her most powerful state could not accomplish, but Mandrakk did it in a relatively calm state of mind. So if we move on to the 2018 Unexpected series, we find out that the Source Forge gave Neon and Alden its creation and destruction power. The full power of the source was specifically gifted to these two to combat Mandrakk should he ever return, and Mandrakk no-sold all of this power. A power far in excess of Perpetua was no-sold by a depowered Mandrakk. That's how powerful Mandrakk really is compared to Perpetua. More so, the same Source Forge, the World's Forge, gave a tiny fraction of its power to Wonder Woman, who completely decimated the Batman Who Laughs, who was amped at the time as well. And also recall that Batman Who Laughs defeated Perpetua in a fight. So Batman Who Laughs was stronger than Perpetua. However, Wonder Woman, with a tiny fraction of the Source Forge's power, was able to overwhelm Batman Who Laughs. So if we hop on back to the unexpected with Alden and Neon having the full power of the Source, we find out that Alden and Neon agree, as well as Mandrakk agrees, that somebody once said, "You'll never get past me." And that being who said, "You'll never get past me," is far, far stronger than both Neon and Alden combined. And remember, Neon and Alden have the full power of the Source. So somebody said this line in the past to Mandrakk, and this entity, or whoever it was, is far in excess of the power of the Source. Well, who said that line, "You'll never get past me"? Take a guess. None other than the Cosmic Armor Superman. "You'll never get past me." And he was speaking to Mandrakk during their battle. They said the exact same line. So, depowered Mandrakk is more powerful than the Source. Both Alden and Neon have the power of the Source of creation and destruction, and depowered Mandrakk no-sold that. The power of the Source is far beyond anything Perpetua can ever handle. Now, the second most absurd thing that this person said was that the Eonymus exist beyond all of this, and they're far more powerful than Mandrakk. Well, that just isn't true. If you read the end of Milk Wars, the author avatar talks to you at the end of the comic book. And again, I'm pretty sure that this person never read this comic and purposely censored this from you. But the author avatar in the same comic that the Eonymus appeared in tells you that they're all contained in the Overvoid. That the author, avatar, and the comic book you just read are perpetually stuck in the Overvoid and can't get out. And remember, Mandrakk is the corrupted side of the Overvoid. So at no point will the Eonymus ever manage to do anything to Mandrakk in a fight, nor will Perpetua. Now again, I'm not into the hostility thing. I'm not trying to flame or make fun of this user. I really am not into the drama thing. But really, if you're going to debate comics, you really need to be careful on who you're listening to and who you're getting your information from. Because it's very clear that some users out there, they're just out there to get you to accept them as a friend. They just want to come off as knowledgeable in any way possible, and they're willing to lie, cheat, and steal to you. They're willing to censor entire comic books and all the author interviews so that you don't get that information. They don't want you to have that information because they know that a lot of people don't like the nil monitors in Final Crisis, and that it's kind of cool now, apparently, to down talk these characters. So they are willing to do whatever they can to get subscribers, and 98 people were duped and suckered by this person on Instagram. And honestly, I feel really bad for anybody listening to this person. I debunked every single line that this person came through, and I did it without any reinterpretation whatsoever. I used exact copy and pastes and author statements and the comic panels themselves. I didn't make up any theories or anything like that. So again, just be careful who you listen to. There's a lot of users out there who are just out there to sucker you.